I got a letter from a lawyer saying I'd inherited a house, but when I opened the front door, someone was already living there. I thought the letter had to be a scam because it claimed that a man I'd never heard of had died and left me his house. There was no explanation, no family connection, and no reason why a complete stranger would leave me something so valuable. The only things inside the envelope were the property's address and instructions to meet with the attorney handling his estate. I almost threw the letter in the trash, but curiosity kept nagging at me. A few days later, I met the lawyer, expecting him to admit there had been some kind of mistake. Instead, he placed several documents in front of me, checked my identification, and calmly explained that the will had been verified. Every document was authentic, and according to the deceased's final wishes, the house now legally belonged to me. Still unable to believe it, I drove to the address 3 days later, expecting to find an abandoned house that had been sitting empty for years. Instead, I saw a car parked neatly in the driveway, lights glowing through the windows, and smoke rising from the chimney. As I walked closer, I could even smell dinner being cooked inside. Thinking someone had broken into the property, I knocked firmly on the front door. A woman in her 60s opened it almost immediately, smiled as though she'd been expecting me, and said, "Oh, you're here earlier than I expected." Completely confused, I told her there had to be some misunderstanding because I was the new owner of the house. She didn't seem surprised at all. She simply stepped aside, looked me directly in the eye, and said, "No, you have the wrong life." Before I could ask what she meant, she disappeared into the living room and returned with an old leather photo album that looked decades old. She placed it in my hands without saying another word. The moment I opened it, my heart stopped. The very first photograph showed my mother standing beside the man who had supposedly never met me. They weren't standing like strangers. They were smiling with their arms around each other as if they'd known one another for years. As I turned the pages, I found more photographs of them together at birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings I'd never heard about. That night, I drove straight to my mother's house and placed the photo album on her kitchen table. The color immediately drained from her face. She stared at the pictures in complete silence for what felt like forever before slowly closing the album. Then she looked at me with tears in her eyes and quietly said, "Your father wasn't who you thought."